Bengals fans are amazing. They're resilient, they're tough, but they're fun. And I'm really excited to hopefully meet a lot more of you.
Isaac has the big game. Then we became a real balanced offense for the playoff run, which I thought was really important.
He put on the greatest route running exhibition I have ever seen in my life.
He was football 24/7, and that was the greatest part of Chad.
At times, the early part, I would tell him when we were throwing deep passes, I said, don't wait too long, because I'm going to get away. If you ain't going to have the arm to get there. So, I want to run to the ball,
Well, Duke, looks like Duke's in the waiting room. I don't want to keep Duke waiting. He gave us a very limited amount of time. I know he's a busy man. Duke, what's going on, big dog? How you doing, buddy?
Jim, how are you, man? Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
Hey.
I'm real busy. I'm sitting on my porch.
Yeah, well, hey. Have a little drink going on there.
Joe Burrow has played in big games his entire life, and I would think he will be a steady hand at the bow of the ship. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if they take him all the way to the Super Bowl. I really wouldn't.
What's up, everybody? Here we are, our first Tuesday night of the season, and it's exciting to be here. We, touted this show as the Hall of Fame special, which still might happen. As everybody knows, they delayed the announcement of the individuals who are going to be selected into Canton until tomorrow. So that won't stop us from our show tonight. With that said, if there is good news and orange smoke billowing out of the Hall of Fame at Canton, signifying that a Bengal has gotten in, then we'll be live tomorrow night too. So we'll have to watch for that orange smoke, and we will be back. We got Jamie here at the start of the show. Welcome back, Jamie.
Tom's looking pretty cozy on the casting couch down there.
we got a new locale. In the man cave. This is one of the spots to watch the away games from, but no, thank you. Actually, it is a little bit more comfortable, and you are setting a trend with the sleeveless look.
Yeah, it's been a busy day. I didn't have a chance to put anything else on, so you're lucky. You're lucky I have a shirt on. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We're talking about going shirtless in the casting couch today.
Well, when the boss is away, the boys will play. Let's go.
Jim's not missing 2 shows in a row ever again after that.
Oh, gosh. Speaking of the boss, our fearless leader is watching maybe Serena Williams' last tennis match tonight if she loses. They're at the Cincinnati Open, Tom. Is that what it's called?
Western and Southern Open, yes.
Let me just say something. I actually have nothing against tennis. I enjoy tennis, but I find it funny Jimmy trashes soccer so much, and he's watching 2 people hit a ball back and forth to each other. So
Trisha, we'll blame this one on Trisha. Trisha dragged
calling a spade on that one.
The explanation I got was Trisha is a Serena Williams. That is her sports hero, and this will be her last chance to ever get to see her. So Jimmy, the ATP formally, thank you. But Jimmy was able to secure some tickets, and off they go to Kings Island.
So we're going to touch on this briefly. As everybody knows, there's 12 Hall of Fame candidates on the senior list, 2 of them, which are beloved Bagels, Ken Anderson and Ken Riley. Again, if that announcement, when that announcement's made tomorrow, if there is good news on our behalf, we will be live again tomorrow night. And we have a special guest coming on in about 10 minutes to talk more about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So stay tuned for that. And before we get to that, let's talk about preseason game on Friday night. 60,000 plus in PBS for the preseason game. Tom, you want to start talking about that?
Well, first off, hats off to all of us, by the fans, for the fans, because the fans, I have never seen a preseason game that well attended. And I think it was because one, preseason is the preseason, and we understand that. But one, it was appreciation and respect for what this team and franchise was able to achieve last year. And two, we missed them. We missed our Bengals, and it was our first chance to really see them completely suited up, trying to beat up on another opponent. So yeah, the atmosphere, I thought, for a preseason game was very good. I thought the fans responded well. I think there were, and I always say this about the preseason, and I'll say this after the next two games. You're going to see some things you really like, which we did. You're going to see some things that you don't like. Unfortunately, we did see one position that scared the bejesus out of us, one position group. But the main thing to come out of a preseason game is, did you have any injuries that are going to impact the season? They lost a offensive lineman who showed very well, Ben Brown out of Ole Miss, and he was a guy that was really in pass protection. He was good, and I'm not sure what his run grade was, but it had to have been better than what the second team showed. And I honestly think he would have made the team either as a backup center or a backup guard, and might show something into the future. But unfortunately, we've lost him with a torn bicep. But I really think that was the only serious injury. So I say it's a victory.
That dude can't catch a break. I just read an article on The Athletic about him, how he tore his bicep in college. Oh.
Put him on.
Okay. My takeaway from the preseason game, obviously, you don't get to see the starters very often in preseason, but seeing Money Mac go out there and how many people were there? 60,000 people?
Yes.
Wow, that's insane. And what did he make a six? What was his longest that night of the preseason game?
He had a 58 and a 57.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's cool.
And it looked like 60,000 people were there too. I mean, I know
that's awesome for preseason.
They sell tickets and people don't go, but I mean, it looked like. I mean, it was crazy. I couldn't.
What's cool about? I mean, we never see 60,000 in a Bengals preseason game before. So, what's cool about that is these guys who probably aren't going to make the team get to go out and have that experience playing in a stadium with that many people. So that's pretty cool.
And speaking of that, we're going to touch on this towards the end of the show. We'll touch on a couple notes, and then, as always, we're going to want the fan reaction, fan comments if you were there, if you watched on TV. But the one thing that was a big topic on Friday, certainly not a situation that's going to be resolved for this weekend, or maybe even for the final preseason game, is that punting battle. We know the incumbent Kevin Huber was there. We have talked about that the holding. It might come down to the holding. Who's going to get that punting job at the end of the day? What is it, 15 years for Kevin Huber, Tom, that he's been here?
15 years. If he plays one more regular season game, he ties Ken Riley for the number of games played as a Bengal, which is something spectacular.
Something spectacular. So that's something obviously we're monitoring. We talked about Caleb. You mentioned the distance of the Evan McPherson holds or field goals. I don't know the breakdown of who was holding for what, but we know that's going to be an important aspect of that punting battle, and it's going to be something to continue to watch. I don't know if anybody has anything they want to add to that the punting discussion.
So I tried to pay attention to see who was holding for those, but they were both so far away that it was really hard to see from, I mean, obviously we all sit in the same section there, but I looked at seeing who was celebrating with him after and did the shooter celebration with him. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Huber was only in on the third one. I think that it was, that was the only one that he was in on. And I'm pretty sure getting punt until the third or fourth quarter either, if I'm not mistaken on that.
And if anybody that's watching, if they want to type in, maybe it was certainly easier to see if you were home watching the show. Be interesting to see what that breakdown was. If it was Drew the first two, and then Kevin that last one. But as you said, regardless, Shooter was banging them. And that first one, I think we were at the 40, and I was like, okay, we're really going to do this. Maybe it's preseason and this is just a try, but man, he made it look easy.
As he does.
Yeah, the one from 58 was probably good from 65. I mean, he not only hit the net, he hit up where the ball hit the net. It was still above the crossbar. So he really got that. I wanted to say that they split that, but I do know in the punting battle, they both look good. Listening to what's been going on at practice, it sounds like, Kevin is his normal, steady, reliable, booming self. And then Chrisman will go out and out of 15 punts, he will just absolutely annihilate the ball, 60-yard punts. But then maybe on that 15th punt, it might shank. It might only go 30, 40. So the consistency is going to Huber, but the leg strength to Chrisman we'll have to see. But I think for Drew, the big thing for him is that he's holding well.
At the end of the show, and people can be thinking about this, we're going to talk about the rookies that we saw debut on Friday night. Some of that's going to tie into the O-line play, which we know was a big question. We talked to Austin Elmore on last week's show about specifically that left guard spot. We talk about the performance. Drew Pitthead at quarterback. Is he a potential backup? Kendrick Pryor. So we'll talk about all that towards the end of the show. But next, let's talk about this Hall of Fame voting that took place today. We speak about it on every show. We've done the Jungle to the Hall events. First one up in Canton last year, the one in downtown Cincinnati this year. It's something that's near and dear to our hearts. And today's Christmas Eve, I guess, before they make the announcement. Tom, go ahead and elaborate.
Well, today, 11 o'clock Eastern time, they don't do it like they used to, where they lock them in a room up in Canton in the Hall of Fame. It's now done via Zoom. But the 12 voters for the Pro Football Hall of Fame Seniors Committee sat down, listened to presentations on each of the 12 nominees, and from those 12, shaved it down. And I would assume by this point in the evening, have selected their 3 that they have nominated to go to the main body of voters, which meet the week of the Super Bowl. And from that, they need an 80% approval to get into the hall. We don't know. We hope. We don't know. It's been very odd. We're about to have Vinny on in just a second. But, there is what's earned and what we have. And you're at the mercy of these sports writers and voters. There are some ex-players in there to see what they're going to do. And we just don't know. We all know that Ken Riley and Ken Anderson belong in. That part's a slam dunk. It's getting them in and overcoming some of the hurdles that 2 classy guys like them have to cover. But tomorrow there'll be an announcement at 1 p.m. I'm sure there'll be leaks and guesses, but no one really knows.
We don't have Jimmy here, who was at Canton last weekend or 2 weekends ago. Caleb, you were there. Any buzz that you heard in Canton about this potential Senior Hall of Fame class?
I mean, you guys know Jimmy, like we all know Jimmy. I mean, that's all he talked about. Anyone that had anything to do with it, he was bringing it up. I mean, that's what Jimmy does. Jimmy's always bringing up, what everyone wants to hear is loving the stats, but I mean, it's hush hush. No one's really talking about who they're voting for. I mean, we have no real clues, no leaks yet. It would be great, but it was just us. It seemed like talking about him. Everyone we talked to, we agree with you. We agree with you, but again, we know nothing. We was hoping to know everything by tonight, but we're
here we are. So we don't know anything more, but we'll keep our fingers crossed for tomorrow. And let's segue into our next guest, Tom, if you want to introduce him.
Absolutely. He is a social network legend when it comes to Hall of Fames. He follows all the Hall of Fames, but particularly football. He does a lot of research on the early parts of the sport, even pre-NFL. Could talk with authority about any era and any legitimate candidate for the Hall of Fame. He studies how they're voted in, some of the voters' tendencies. If you want to treat one of the players like a stock, how their momentum may rise, how it may fall. But it's really, you talk about this being Christmas Eve for the Hall of Fame. Well, trust me, we got Santa. So we welcome in from New York, Vinny Lospinuso. Vinny,
hey,
thanks
guys.
for joining us.
Thanks.
Welcome,
it's finally
Vinny.
about time. And I got to say, first off, it has been an absolute blast. First off, thank you so much, everyone, for letting me come on the show. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is still my room. And I am 23 years old. I'm still living with my parents. But don't let my age fool you. I am someone that could literally talk for hours and hours and hours about, football before the NFL was founded or before the Super Bowl era. Like, I'm a huge advocate of people like John Braley and Charles Follis from Western Pennsylvania to Ohio. I also talk about Laverne Dilwig or Al Worcester from the early pre-Super Bowl era, or someone like a Tom Sestak or Jack Kemp or Walt Sweeney for the AFL, and of course Super Bowl 1970 present. It's the era that most people talk about when it comes to football. But I don't just talk about the players. I especially love the contributors, the Ralph Hayes, the Wilfred Winkenbachs, the Trip Hawkins, the Bucko Kilroys. I'm someone that is rather new age in their approach in terms of how they view Hall of Fame stuff. I kind of look at it more as a fan perspective as opposed to purely of a just solely stats dominant, because I believe there are many, many reasons why someone is Hall of Fame worthy. Like, for instance, a big reason why I was so happy for the induction of Art McNally is not only because he was the first ever pure official to make the Hall of Fame, but because he represented what it means to truly be an official of the game, and also an inventor, someone who invented play-by-play for the NFL. I've always been a fan of inventors, going back when I was growing up. Both of my parents are school teachers the last 30 years. Binge watching How It's Made even when I was in elementary school. So it's always been a big interest of mine. And with Halls of Fame, surprisingly, I didn't get into Halls of Fame because of the sport. I didn't really get invested in the sport until I was in high school. I mostly someone that played platform games and whatnot. I usually wasn't very good at sports, but I was very interested in how many fans would talk about how many characters they wanted, like crossover fighting games, for instance. And I noticed how it's very similar to that for Hall of Fames. Oh, like for Smash Brothers, they want to see like Crash Bandicoot or like Gino or Waluigi or these other characters. And then when you look at the Hall of Fame side, you see people over there that push for Jerry Kramer, people that push for Johnny Robinson, people that push for Drew Pearson, and many other people. And I see all these cases and all these push that I've seen. I've seen pushes for Amy Trask, which I'm a big part of. I've seen pushes for Roman Gabriel, which I'm a huge part of. And this comes to you guys. I genuinely do think the Bengals, in terms of their fans organizing this event, and I'm not just saying it because I'm on this show, I genuinely believe you guys have done the very best work out of all of them. And this is including those wonderful Raiders fans that successfully pushed for Tom Flores and are pushing the case for Amy Trask. And I'm including a good friend of mine, Vinny Sheenan, who has been spearheading the case of Roman Gabriel, a true pioneer for the game for Asian Americans and just a great quarterback in himself. And he's gotten many, many players like Merlin Olsen and Roger Staubach and Bob Lilly and all these legends that have come forward and say he's deserving. And, I look at for the Bengals and I say, I got into, following a little bit of the team back in during COVID era. And I noticed how the Bengals, yeah, you may have people here like Dick LeBeau and, I guess you can say Terrell Owens that have had some contribution for the Bengals, but they're not purely there because of it. It's a real shame just objectively that a team that has been to now 3 Super Bowls only has one individual that's only there primarily because of his time for the Cincinnati Bengals. You look at other teams like, for instance, the New York Jets. They have only been to the Super Bowl once in their entire livelihood. The Detroit Lions had a lot of success from the pre-Super Bowl era, but unless you count the playoff bowl victories in the early 1960s, they haven't won a playoff game since 1957 until the 1991 divisional round against the Cowboys. So I look at a team like the Bengals and I say, why? And it's a real sad reason as to why. And the reason why is because Cincinnati, as a franchise, for a long time didn't really have a good way to really market themselves or really emphasize how integral in many cases the organization has been in terms of changing the game. Look how Sam Weish, how he was a part of how important the no huddle offense was, or even how Bill Walsh during his time in Cincinnati. But a lot of people didn't talk about that. But one thing I really noticed, what really got the ball really rolling, Anderson was already talked about before, some with Parrish and some with, other people. But I think what really kicked it for Riley was when he died. And it was during the whole presence of the Black Lives Matter movement and the George Floyd protests. And you have the story of this man who wasn't able to play quarterback because he was black. So he decided to play corner. And what did he have? He had an exceptional 15-year career where he had 3 All-Pros. He was just as good when he came in as when he ended. And he finished 4th all-time in interceptions, which is the same amount as Charles Woodson. And, when I look at his entire case and to see the people like Charlie Joyner and Mel Blount and John Stallworth, James Lofton, and numerous other people that are in the Hall of Fame that are advocating for them. Dick LeBeau, also another one. Yeah, I mean, these are people that played with him, coached alongside him, and also have been against him that say he was extremely dominant. Chris Collinsworth has said that he's one of the smartest people he's ever met, and he's learned more about the game from him than anyone else. And this is Chris Collinsworth, one of the most influential people in the sport for the last 40 years.
As a Bengals fan, Vinny, again, we appreciate you joining us. Obviously, we're looking at things through our orange-striped glasses. You're an outside based in the Northeast. You mentioned the talk and you've heard what the jungle to the hall did. What does it look like from the outside looking in on Bengals fans, the push that they've all been doing, and I think doing in a very classy way of, not putting others down, congratulating those that get in, but hey, it's our time. As you alluded to, we have one player in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think the momentum from the Super Bowl last year has driven it. We saw Ken Riley as a finalist a couple years ago. We have 2 finalists now in this last 12. So what is it from the outside looking in and the perception on the Bengals fan base, and more specifically looking at it, the Hall of Fame and the lack of players in there?
Well, I mean, some like people that have advocated for other individuals to make the Hall of Fame, for instance, like how Ron, the big Randy Gratishaw fan, Ron Katz, he's been a big advocate for Randy Gratishaw, and he's been helping you guys out. And he has noticed the real push that's been going on for someone like a Ken Anderson and someone like a Ken Riley. I know that when you guys were having your Jungle to the Hall campaign on June 19th, I saw a lot of the hate comments. I saw a lot of them. I think Mike Florio was trying to mention it, and you had all these people that were trying to comment below and saying, oh, they're losers, they're this and that. And I spoke to Jim about it, and I just said, ignore it. You guys are doing the right thing. And my friend Zach over in Canton is thinking the same exact thing, that you guys are truly doing the right thing and going about it, and you're getting the word out there. Yes, we know the voters weren't there in general. However, it got attention first and foremost. That's what most important. And people are going to say this and that, but the fact of the matter is, it got a lot of attention for the Bengals in particular. The fact the Super Bowl run from the Bengals, being the 4th seed, finally making the playoffs again, winning a playoff game finally, winning twice on the road, including against the back-to-back AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs on overtime. going to the Super Bowl and almost winning against the Los Angeles Rams and having more fans at the AFC Championship parade than even the Super Bowl parade, I think that opened a lot of people's eyes, how passionate and how dedicated the fan base is, and how, the Bengals are finally changing their image. I mean, they changed their uniforms last year. They're bringing out the white helmets. A lot of people in general are noticing that, maybe it is time for a Bengal to make the Hall of Fame. And right now, from the looks of it, while there are some that are way more in favor of, Anderson, there's some that say that neither is truly Hall of Fame worthy. Riley, I would say, is definitely the one that has the more momentum. He has gotten more people advocating for him and going for him recently. Now, is that a good thing or is it a bad thing because it wasn't exactly for the time? Either, it doesn't really matter in my opinion. Well, it may not hold as much weight. The fact of the matter is these are people that felt that way back then, and they still very much feel it this way now. So,
looking at the 12 candidates, we have them listed up here on the screen. If you had a vote, and yes, this is a Bengal show, you don't have to pick any Bengals. What are the three guys that you are picking, and the reason why? Short reason behind each one.
I'm not going to choose any Bengals to make sure I don't have any bias in this race. I'd say for the first one, as a huge pre-merger person like myself, I got to go with Cecil Isbell for one of them, mostly because Isbell was one of the quarterbacks along with Arnie Herber that made the Packers the team of that era along with the Chicago Bears, and he's the only quarterback in any of the all-decade teams on the Hall of Fame, and he was a multi-time passing receiver and passing touchdown leader. The only reason why his career was rather short was because of a contract dispute with the Packers, but he was so dominant that even then he was still part of the all-decade team. My next one would be Randy Gratishaw, mostly because he was a short career, 10 years roughly, but he was always a candidate for the Defensive Player of the Year. He often played injured, and he played, I think, like almost every single game of his career. He has been someone that people have been pounding the table for many years, and I think it's about time, especially without someone especially with less voters with vendettas. I think he would get a push in. And, again, not having any Bengals here, the last one I would choose would be Bob Kuchenberg, 8-time finalist before, a longtime guard for the Miami Dolphins, was part of all five of their teams that went to the Super Bowl. I actually remember speaking to his granddaughter after he died, and she would tell me how distraught he was, again, being a finalist and missing out. And I hate that for anyone, especially that he's no longer alive to see it, which means that his family's not going to get the gold jacket or the ring, because unfortunately they don't give any jackets and rings. And granted, I don't think that's they say it's because of wheels. They said it's because they don't want to deal with the wheels. I don't agree with that. I think while the crest is nice, the Basketball Hall of Fame doesn't do that. The Baseball Hall of Fame doesn't do that. I don't even think the Hockey Hall of Fame does that. I don't understand personally why the Football Hall does that. But nevertheless, it's still big for those families. So not including any Bengals, those would be the three that I would have.
Vinny, a couple of things I want to point on. You mentioned how Roman Gabriel has many people pushing him, the great, tough quarterback for the Rams and then later in the Eagles. And I think if you want to put him to the forefront, the best thing that those people can hope for is that Ken Anderson gets in, because he's clearly the next deserving quarterback. The other thing you touched on lightly is this, and this is a bit of a phobia. Cincinnati, a smaller market, but I've suggested this to a couple of media types and also a couple of players. And my philosophy is this: had Ken Anderson and Ken Riley had identical careers and numbers, what they did here in Cincinnati, but in the time they played, the early 70s into the mid 80s, but through the 70s, had they played in New York or Chicago on terrible Bears teams and awful Jets teams, very bad Giants teams, they'd already be in. They would already be in the Hall of Fame. And I don't think it would even be close. And it's the one thing here, whereas I got a message from somebody last night, and all I did was just innocently post a Ken Riley jersey. I didn't say, Jungle to the Hall. I didn't say for the Hall of Fame or anything. This guy skewered me that, he listed in his opinion, 10 other players that in Bengal history that should be in. But, these are guys that they both need to go in. There's no preference. We both need to go in. And it's not even that there's just one Bengal in there. It's about these, from the senior standpoint, these two individuals deserve to be in. It's equally egregious from the modern committee. Willie Anderson should have been in, later. They're now doing analysis of offensive linemen, and they're rating him maybe as one of the 2 or 3 best of all time. But our market size and the class of these individuals, we're talking about Paul Brown type of players. Quiet, hardworking, but great, smart, and dominating.
Yep. I am now, as you know, I'm from Long Island. I'm from Suffolk County. I live in West Islip, actually. Boomer Esiason's from East Islip, in case anyone's curious. So I have a connection right there. Boomer is an absolute legend here. But I absolutely agree with you in terms of if Ken Anderson did play for someone like the Giants, he probably would have already been in. Granted, someone like Charlie Connerly was a 7-time finalist for the Giants, and he isn't in yet. But I do absolutely agree that if they were out of the market of Cincinnati, and if they were in a place like a New York City or a Chicago or a Dallas, I do believe they definitely would have had significantly more attention. And I do think Anderson at the very least would be in. And I also think, considering Riley's story, I think he'd be someone that people would be pushing as well, in my opinion. Again, speaking with Ron Katz, a big reason why Randy Gratishaw isn't in is partially because he was a Bronco. I mean, the Broncos have so many legendary, players, executives, and whatnot. And it took until 2004 for John Elway to be the first ever, Bronco player to make the Hall of Fame. Someone like Goose Gonsolin or Lionel Taylor or Lewis Wright, and of course Randy Gratishaw should have been, before someone like John Elway. Shouldn't have taken all the way then. And the same thing here for the Bengals. The fact of the matter is, it's been so long between the number of the last pure Bengal to be in to the present. That absolutely needs to change, and it's egregious in all ways, shape, or form. I made a big part of it in my slide that I put for my final paper for class. Yeah, I actually did an entire final paper for Bengals fans and how they're viewed on social media. But that is changing because despite the small size, you're having big market numbers in terms of viewership. I'll tell you that. Like, that's more than teams like the Patriots, teams like the Bills. That's pretty cool, honestly.
As somebody that studies the other Hall of Fames, Vinny, and we've been fortunate enough to have some Hall of Fame voters and people around that, for lack of better words, basically admitted, yeah, it's a small market bias. We weren't on the primetime games back in the day. Do you see that bias, if we want to use that term, in the Basketball Hall of Fame, in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and potentially the Hockey Hall of Fame? Or is this more prominent for those that are trying to get into Canton?
I would definitely say it's a big part for baseball. I mean, it took Larry Walker 10 years to finally make the Hall of Fame, despite his numbers being absolutely fantastic. And people kept saying about how, Coors Field this, Coors Field that. If Coors Field was really, I've never won a division title, let alone a World Series. And for basketball, that was the case for a long time. But fortunately, with the induction of people like Jack Sigma and Sidney Moncrief, you're seeing that finally push away. You're now seeing people like Zelmo Beatty and other ABA guys finally getting inducted for the Basketball Hall of Fame. Granted, I'm someone who's a big Leroy Edwards fan, a big Leo Ferris fan, who wants to see them eventually get in for basketball. They're not in yet, but I'm confident that hopefully they will make it one day. But they're way before that. And as for hockey, I will be honest and say that I don't follow hockey as much as I do the other Halls of Fame. Though, based on what I've seen from football, based on what I've seen from baseball, and based on what I've seen for basketball, especially in the past, I'm pretty sure that's also the case. But don't quote me on that. I haven't seen it as much.
We've been talking about the senior committee here tonight. And I think Tom alluded to Willie Anderson earlier. What's your thoughts on the potential for him getting in the next round of voting for I don't know what's the terminology for that round, the current crop of guys potentially
modern
to get into the Hall of
players.
Fame.
Modern era
players. Yes,
it's modern era. There's modern era, and then there's seniors, and there's the mashup of coaches and contributors. I'm personally not a huge fan of that in particular because it only limits one when I believe there's literally so many coaches and contributors you can pull from. But that aside, I believe that Willie Anderson finally cracking the finalist round. And I think a big part of that goes to the sacks allowed metric that Pro Football Focus has gorgeously really put together. I always liked PFF. They're really pushing the way for how people view, mass analytics, very deeper analytics for football players. But I would say that he's going to end up as a finalist again. There's no doubt in my mind that Joe Thomas will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. As for Willie Anderson, I would say like he might make the top 10, but I don't see him getting past there. But I think just any kind of improvement would be big. But at the same time, Tony Baselli was a finalist for so many years, being one of the last people they cut, and finally now he was in. So who knows? Hopefully there's something for him.
He deserves it. He absolutely deserves it. Vinny, you and I have talked about certain voters, and we're not your bad mouth, but there was practically, I used the analogy that there was one guy going in there pushing his guy today, and he was going to hold his breath until the committee named him one of the three. Like we've tried to get to know him. You've studied, the whole mass of the voters. How do you see the change in transparency for this year's voting process, helping deserving players get in?
I personally think that the increase in transparency for both the seniors and the contributors is massive, and it lets people know who has a real chance of getting in, because we'd hear stuff in the past how, Riley just missed out, but you never saw anything. And that caused a lot of confusion, a lot of upsetment. Now, the fact that it is transparent, at least more transparent. I wish it was more transparent. I mean, I would have no issue if the entire Hall of Fame selection was live on YouTube. I mean, it'd be a nice show. I mean, a lot of people do view the voters like politicians. So
Vinny, I've advocated for years that they need to do it live on NFL Network and sponsored. It'd be an incredible reality show for the NFL. But please finish.
I would absolutely love that. I mean, look, the Snyder Cut was released on HBO Max. That was 4 hours long. People had no problem doing that. People have done live streams for the election long time. People watch Red Zone from like 1 p.m. Eastern and then they finish football until like 11 p.m. at night. So I don't see any issue why you can easily record it right there. But I also think, this is a huge step in terms of ensuring more transparency and much more trust with people. And not only that, the fact that they have been finalists in the past, we now have a metric for that. With them being finalists more and more, it allows people to push them more, saying, hey, he's been a finalist so many times already, you might as well push it for him now, which I'm really excited to see, because now if Anderson or Rada doesn't make it, they say, hey, he was a finalist back here, he's been finalist again, push it for it now. That is really good news for me. And, maybe that could be good for it, but we'll see. But I personally think it'll be pretty good.
Vinny, thank you so much for your time. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow. I'm sure Jimmy will be in touch with you as well. But, the time you put into this is very well appreciated, and certainly the foundation for what's going to be a very successful career in this.
Oh, I hope so. I've applied for Newsday, CBS, LT, still looking for it. But so far, I've also been writing for American Football International. I've been doing podcasts for notinthehalloffame.com. I've also been doing vlogs on Zane62 Media. Please go follow all of those. Everyone running there, like Roger, Kirk, Zenny, they're all amazing men. And I've also worked for the Suffolk County Hall of Fame, which is the Hall of Fame right here in my county. Chris Vaccaro, he's the executive vice president of Altice. That's the former cable vision. That's what the Dolans used to own. Yes, they are related to, of course, the Dolans with Paul Dolan with the Cleveland Guardians. But yeah, just follow me there. My Twitter is right here, right there at Vin Lospinuso 91 also. And yeah, I wish for the best. And all I could say is put Ken in. Which one? Exactly. I hope, I wish for the best. And I'm rooting for all you guys. I seriously am. They would not be here if they do make it, which I'm hoping they will. If not, it'll be probably next year. When they make it, it will be because of all of you for pushing and making sure it happened. And whether it's Anderson, Riley, whoever, you'll just go to the next one. And I'm very happy that you are. I'm sure Ken Riley's family and Ken Anderson can't thank you enough for all the work you have done. And I'm sure they are eternally grateful that you are there in their lives.
Oh, thank you, Vinny. Who day? We'll talk to you
sir.
sooner than later.
Who day indeed. See you guys.
Night.
Oh, you're muted, James.
You're muted, James.
You guys can't
There you
read
go.
lips yet. Sorry about that. Well, no, it's less than 24 hours. Again, the hard work that everybody's put in, and again, doing it in a classy way, being positive, just doing the good fight. And we'll keep our fingers crossed. 24 hours from now, hopefully Jimmy's live in Canton and we're doing a show. And if not, the fight will go on. So that's where we're at. And again, thank you to Vinny for coming on. So we want to get to our the people watching. Let's get a little bit further on with the for the preseason game. We know we have another one coming up this Sunday. I think it's NFL Network, basically the Sunday night game. I think Zach already said not many of the starters are going to be playing again. But one thing to keep an eye on, it was something we watched last week. It's something we're going to watch this week, and that's that left guard spot. We know the struggles that Jackson Carman had on Friday night. We saw Cordell Volson come in the second half and solidify that spot. Yes, it was against second, third, fourth stringers, but you have to like what you saw. Speaking of that left guard spot, we saw an interesting tweet from Quentin Spain. So the other three, whoever wants to jump in first on this left guard battle, which seems to be the last loose link as we rebuilt that line for the 2022 season.
Yeah, it's definitely the weak link. There's something interesting, and we've now had Jackson Carman about a year and a half since he was drafted. He was a guest on the show, and he was great. But nothing is given in the NFL. But they certainly gave him a very clear path to come in and seize a starting spot. It did not go well. He did have back surgery, but he came in out of shape last year, both mentally and physically. Didn't play a regular down in the Super Bowl, was just specials. And pretty much he did the same thing this year, thinking he would step up. And clearly it didn't work the other night against the Cardinals, second and to a degree third strings. He looked like he was on ice skates. He was getting pushed back in the pocket. He was getting beaten to the inside. He was getting beaten to the outside. And a little better in the running game, but nothing to write home about. Certainly with Cordell Volson, you put him in, yes, he was against third stringers, but you liked what you saw. He finished off blocks, the touchdown run. He pushed his guy into the end zone and was still looking for contact. So I think I look for him to get the shot because they need to address that. It only takes one bad play from one lineman to wreck your franchise. And, they have to do it. As far as Quentin Spain, I'll leave it at this. The old Paul Brown philosophy, which was, is he better than what you have?
That's true. The only problem with it being on the line is your line is only as strong as your weakest link. I mean, it doesn't matter how strong that right side is. If the middle left side has a broken chain, that's going to be the problem. You need 5 people functioning together, and hopefully Volson can keep it up, or maybe Jackson can. I mean, he just he didn't look as strong as you expect that early of a pick to be looking in year 2.
Jamie, you got anything you'd like to add?
Not really. I mean, you guys know me enough to know that I like character guys. I like the fact that this franchise has moved on from a lot of the guys with the baggage, and I'm not going to be sad if Jackson loses a spot.
Alrighty.
We've got people in the chat asking about the tailgate. A couple first-time tailgaters that missed that either missed the tailgate or just asking about the next ones. So, James, you want to give them some info on that? It's always
yeah. For those that were there on Friday night, certainly scaled down. We had music playing, we had some Miller Lights flowing, and plenty of waters, but a shell of what it normally is. With that being said, thank you to Steve Raleigh. And is he at WCPO, Tom? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Is that where he's at? So Steve Raleigh, WCPO, was there interviewing a lot of the Bengals fans. So that was nice. There was some ownership that made their way through Lottie and stopped by and said hi, which is always nice to see. So we will, with that being said, we will be back in 2 weeks for the Rams game. Again, a scaled down version. And then we'll be back to our full ramped up version for the home opener against Pittsburgh. So if you're in town, you want to come down, check out the social media. We will be there. Again, it'll be scaled down, and then we'll be back 110% before leading up to the Pittsburgh game. Another thing I want to touch on, I'm going to pop up this graphic, is a guest we had on the show, somebody that had a good game. A lot of the long runs were called back because of silly holding penalties that weren't necessary. Anybody want to talk about the night that Chris Evans had and his potential to take over the number 2 spot and the versatility that he adds in the Bengals backfield? Because he was certainly a bright spot on Friday night.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. One other thing before you move on from the tailgate, I apologize for going back to it. They were asking kind of like times and stuff like that, and like what it entailed and stuff like that. If we charge stuff like that, it's 4 hours before the whatever time the game time is. That's when the lots open. It is, we don't charge anything for anything there. We take donations for the food, anything that we try to make ourselves back even. Anything over would go to charity. But yeah, I apologize for coming back to this, but there were some people that didn't know what time it started, how to get there, if it was an invite only type thing. So I just wanted to clear that up there. And Chris Evans is definitely RB2. I mean, he looked phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal last week, and I think it's his to lose personally. Tom, what do you think?
I think to a certain degree, what they had been saying is what may have been holding him back a little bit was a lot of times RB2 for the Bengals is called on to block and blitz pickup, and he might be not that he's bad at it, he's just not as good as some of the other guys. But put the ball in his hands, let him run a route, put the ball in his hands between the tackles, or like we saw, even when he bounces to the outside, he's got the power, he's got the speed. He's a fine running back. I think he's the type that even if he is third string, he might be the guy that goes in to spell Joe Mixon when Joe Mixon sits out a series. But I think as far as a third down back, they're still leaning on who's our best at blitz pickup. And he just probably by experience more than anything else, he's not there. The other thing about Chris is I think you're going to see him returning kicks this year. So we'll get to see some of that speed and strength hopefully used there when the kickers aren't kicking it through the back of the end zone. But he was definitely in a night we were looking for bright spots. He was one of them.
Speaking of another bright spot, Tom, you've been high on this guy since he was drafted, if I'm not mistaken. 7th round pick out of Coastal Carolina. Do you want to talk about number 93?
Well, the Bengals like to send in their defensive linemen, especially their edge rushers, in waves. They like to keep them fresh. And, when he was drafted, we didn't know much about him, just what we read. but certainly he brought a ball of energy. He's in shape, and the coaches have loved him since first day of rookie camp, and since there. And there's one main thing from an edge guy, and it's something historically that might have eluded this franchise to a certain degree, and that is that dominant guy that can get to the pass rusher. Trey Hendrickson had one of the great seasons in Bengal history last year as a defensive end, and he's a beast. Now when Trey has to take a blow, we got another guy that can come in and be a beast, hopefully. Or allows him to move another one of those great pass rushers inside. So I know Coach Anarumo is very high on him. In fact, I guess he was quoted before the game, said, watch this guy. He's going to pressure the quarterback and he's going to get a sack. And he did just that. So we'll have to watch him this week. It might be interesting if we don't see him as much. That might be telling us that he's made the team and they have big plans for him.
That depth you're talking about at defensive end is, something we've been looking for. Sam Hubbard and as you said, Trey come out of the game. To have Joseph Osai back, who we know got injured last year. It's almost like having another rookie there. Jeffrey Gunter there on the outside. It's a nice 3-4 punch when those starters need a bit of a break. Anything, Jamie or Caleb, you want to add to that?
I have nothing to add. I just like that we have depth. that we're actually seeing some depth in the roster. That's exciting to me.
It's nice to see that we're actually trying to develop a little bit of talent where it's always nice to have the depth. I mean, that's where you need it is on the line, both sides of it. I mean, you're rotating in and out the entire game. It's not just, you can't just have 4 linemen out there. I mean, that's where that's what's going to cause pressure in this NFL is getting to the quarterback. I mean, Lamar's not going to be able to run around when he's got people in his face. I mean, that's how we stopped him last year. That's how we're going to have to stop him this year. We're going to need different people to step up that necessarily aren't the main guys, as you alluded to there, James. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Switching back to the offensive side of ball, we all know about our 3-headed monsters at wide receiver: Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. Obviously, none of those guys played in the first preseason game. But one guy that was a pleasant surprise on Friday night was an undrafted rookie out of, was it Wisconsin or Nebraska?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. And here's one of his catches. I think it was 80-plus yards that he had, being thrown to by Drew Pitt and Jake Browning. Certainly exciting. We know once you get towards the end of that wide receiver, 5th, 6th, 7th spot, if they were to keep that many, they're going to have to contribute on special teams. But good first night showing there for Mr. Pryor.
Yeah, a little bit of excitement, and something that I thought was interesting. Zach Taylor has said he is the most improved player since they reported to camp this year. But back in right after the draft, back in April, and that he improves every day. Every day he gets better, and so he'll be a guy to watch. Sunday, again for that last. When you're a backup receiver, especially probably the last receiver spot, you have to contribute on specials. And, is he a returner? How is his coverage? How is his blocking on specials? So we need to watch that too. But certainly as a wide receiver, if you can't get open and you can't catch the ball, you're not going to make it. And he got open and he caught the ball. He looked really good.
Yeah, super athletic. And Tom's exactly right. When you get down to no one's gonna break that top 3 or possibly even top 4, most likely. When it comes down to those lower end receivers on the depth chart, it comes down to how you do the intangibles. The thing that are going to keep you on the roster is exactly special teams, blocking on the runs, and that's what the coaches are looking at. And I'm interested to see if that opened their eyes to at least look at the other stuff and see if he's going to make it.
Before we wrap up here, this guy, you might know him, came back and made his return from the appendectomy that he had. You notice in the background, pack stands once again for for training camp. So I believe, was it Monday or Sunday, the first time back in pads. Not that any of us were worried. It was one of those deals where Joe, rest. Obviously, we know what we got. We just want you back 100% for week 1 against the city by West Virginia. But great sign to have him back out there already, throwing the ball, interacting, and just being out there with his teammates and developing the rapport, even behind those new linemen.
Yeah, getting his timing down, getting his timing with the receivers down. I think they're working on that a lot. And exactly right. They're building him out. Yeah. If he doesn't take a snap in the preseason, it wouldn't break my heart. If they put him in for one series where he throws one pass like they did last preseason, that wouldn't shock me either. But certainly not more than that. No, he's getting ready. The team to play the team from the city where the Ohio River starts, and he'll be ready. I'm not worried about him. I'm just worried about keeping him safe because as much as we dislike those guys, we do respect them, and they're well coached. And our entire division is really mad and insulted that the Bengals went to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
And they'll be coming after him. They'll be coming after him hard. They know how to beat us and they know how to hurt us. And that's by getting to number 9. So he'll be ready to do his thing as long as the other 10 guys on the field do theirs. We're going to be fine.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to wrap up the show, I think, soon. So I'll kind of jump in on the kind of what Tom was just talking about. The pundits aren't giving the Bengals the respect that we deserve after going to the Super Bowl. So, I read all these articles and predictions, doing my research for fantasy football drafts and all that fun stuff that's coming up. And, a lot of these guys have the Ravens winning the division. And a lot of these guys think that this was just one of those like lightning in a bottle scenarios, and the Bengals struck lightning multiple times to get there. And I think the thing I'm the most excited about this season, guys, for me, was that me? I don't even know what the. Okay, sorry. The thing I'm most excited about this season is proving to the rest of the league that this isn't a fluke, and this team only got better. And the major weaknesses that we all talked about this going in the Super Bowl. We were very nervous about that line going in the Super Bowl, and it hurt us on the very last play of the game, ironically. So I'm excited to see what this new line looks like, and I'm super excited to prove to the rest of the league that the Bengals are definitely for real. And as long as number 9's back there, we're going to compete every year, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't know if he would have even played really a snap, even if he didn't have the athlete with me. I think that they very well could have sat him this whole time anyway. So, I mean, I feel that everything's right still on track. And I echo your sentiment in saying that I am ready to just prove people that the 2-0 against those two teams that like to talk the most wasn't a fluke.
All right, our 2-minute warning siren is I think that was a noise we heard from Jamie. So I think that was our unofficial 2-minute warning siren. So let's wrap it up here. Tom, you go first.
Yeah, a good week because nobody got hurt. Certainly we've got questions to be answered all along the roster and at the top of the roster at the left guard spot. So we'll get some of those Sunday night. Very big night tonight. I love how you put it, James. We're looking at that steeple above the Pro Football Hall of Fame for orange and black smoke mixed, and we can't find out till tomorrow. So there'll be all kinds of rumors and all kinds of alleged leaks tonight, but we won't know for certain till tomorrow afternoon. So hopefully, and you'll fill everybody in a minute, hopefully we'll be seeing everybody tomorrow night with great news and happy guests, and we'll go from there. Caleb?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the healthiness as the main talking point. No one important is really playing right now, so we're just trying to stay healthy. Really excited to see what happens tomorrow, and next week we've got our fearless leader back. It's been a weird 2 weeks in a row with no Bengal Jim. I don't know how we survived. So, Jamie, up to you.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say other than I'm excited. 25 days to the home opener. Just excited for football to come back. This is what we all live for as fans. So I just want to get. I've always disliked all the minutia of breaking down like a guy made a good play in practice, and then like guys write articles about this guy. The sample size is so small. Like I understand why we do it, and I understand as fans get excited, but it doesn't mean anything until there's actually a game on the line, in my opinion. So that's when the fun starts for me.
All right, before we finish here, I meant to do this at the beginning of the show. I always forget, but want to thank our friends from Cincy Jungle for being a part of the show. One thing, I don't have the pictures, but there were a lot of people at the stadium on Saturday that had a variety of our swag on, courtesy of our friends at
Not that
Cincy
one.
Shirts. Not well, they did. They want to know where Jamie was and wanted
Well,
Jamie
it's
to
really
autograph
weird,
it.
guys. I'm walking around my city. I haven't seen one person.
And also, we did have. I picked these up from Cincy Shirts actually Friday. So the new koozies are in. I know there's some people that collect those. Those are in. You can pick those up the next preseason game, regular season game. If you're not local, you can get one shipped to you. So go to bengaljim.com and you can order those. But thank you to Vinny for coming on. And it's, I just can't, and I've said this before, but I can't put my shoes in Ken Riley or myself in Ken Riley Jr. shoes or Ken Anderson's shoes right now. Just waiting for that phone call of what's going on. Did I make it? Is it another year of telling me next year? It would drive me nuts. And for the time and the energy that everybody's putting in, we appreciate it. Again, thank you for doing it in a positive way, and we're going to keep pushing. With that said, if we're fortunate and one of the Kens gets in tomorrow, we're going live. It'll be a special show. It'll be a lot of fun, and we're gonna celebrate. So stay tuned to social media as everybody does so faithfully. And if we get the smoke billowing, the orange and black smoke billowing from Canton, we're gonna party, and we're gonna party live with you right back here. So stay tuned. We appreciate everyone for joining us, and have a good night. And Hoo Day, everybody.
Hoo Day.
Hoo Day.
Hoo Day.